Welcome to Support Life, a program focusing on current social issues from a life-affirming perspective. I'm Gavin Baulch, and later on in the program we will be featuring one of the Street Talk interviews. We recorded these last December with members of the public in the Bourke St Mall of Melbourne. But for now, our guest that we're returning to from last week is Mary Collier from Right to Life Australia. Welcome back, Mary.
Thank you, Gavin.
Good. Yeah. And you come from a large family of 9, including yourself. So how many brothers and sisters were there?
I've got 4 brothers and 4 sisters. I'm the eldest of 9, and we're very close together, as many Catholic families. My mum was 30 when she met Dad, so that's quite late to start a family. And Dad was only 25, so these days they'll call her a cradle snatcher.
And what do your siblings do?
One sibling is a nurse in palliative care, and I have 2 brothers that have an engineering business together. They make plastic products, and a brother's a locksmith. Another one works as a sports manager for a council. Currently he's over in Turkey. I don't know why they get trips to Turkey, but and another sister's an IT specialist, and she is always seconded to the central nerve centre when they have an earthquake, because she has a specialist IT background. And
for those who have just tuned in, we're talking about Christchurch, not Melbourne with its earthquakes.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad that your brothers and sisters are really so active in life. And talking about being active, there would have been a walk that had taken place. A number of people were walking for what again?
We just had our annual Right to Life walk, and this year we called it Trailblazers for Life, and it's to raise money for our pregnancy counselling service, which is 24-hour free telephone counselling, and if required we have face-to-face counselling. So we pay for all the telephone services, and that's why we're raising money for that.
That's wonderful. So let's wind the clock back just a little bit, and what about the Great Ocean Road? Why does that feature significantly?
Well, that was one of the first walks that I'd organised when I came to Right to Life, and we were trying to think at our committee of something that would be novel, would still have a camaraderie, and would still be able to raise funds for our pregnancy counselling. So I thought of the Great Ocean Walk, and I wish I'd thought of something simpler, but it was quite difficult because logistically to actually get the shuttle buses for the lunches and those sorts of things into those remote parts of the Great Ocean Road, off the Great Ocean Road, is difficult. And I had to visit there twice with a colleague and drive the whole route. But we had a lot of support from the accommodation. We stayed both nights at the same accommodation, and then we'd walk and then come back each night back to the base. And one of the shuttle bus drivers didn't know anything about Right to Life, and he said, well, when I first met you all, I thought, this will be interesting. And at the end, he actually gave us a donation. So that was a major change in someone who knew nothing about the pro-life movement.
Yes.
And we completed half of it, the walk, and this year even people were saying, Mary, when will you do the other half? So it was good value because one of the groups that takes walks on this part of the beautiful Victorian coastline charges people about over $1,000 for a 3-day walk. And I think people paid about maybe $100, and they had to get sponsorship as well. So wow. They had a 2-in-1 benefit.
How supportive is that? You know, it's interesting. I think there's something from our Aboriginal culture that we can learn from. They'll often say, walk a while with me. And you're explaining to us that this is what's happened with the bus driver. And I think all people have to do is think for a moment, okay, are these just ordinary people with ordinary lives like ourselves and ordinary families like ourselves? They might have a different view, but really they're just like me, and they have concerns, and they're expressing them and showing love and grace. What other walks have there been that you've organised?
Last year we did a walk around Melbourne. We had, I think it was 5 or 6 councils that were involved, And I think on your last program I talked about how hard it is to get permits. And one council we had a major blocking with, and it was a woman who, I'm not sure what her agenda was, but she wouldn't let us have a permit, and all the other councils had said yes, and we'd met their requirements. So we had to go above that level, and we received the last permit, because you have to plan the walk assuming that you'll get the permit. Otherwise you don't really go anywhere, because they want the details. So we went all around Melbourne, and we actually had protests outside the clinics, which a lot of the older walkers really enjoy and know that's historically that's what they've done. So that was quite easy to organise, that one.
With some of the new, younger walkers, how did they embrace the events?
Well, some of them have come with their parents. For example, a young man came with his dad who was an intensive care physician, and he came and he really didn't understand the life movement, but gradually he heard a little bit about it, like at the barbecue afterwards. And there was another woman who brought her children as well. So there's now people coming on who have come by themselves. Like this year, one girl registered, and she's actually come along by herself, where she came before with her family. So that's good news.
I think it's great that families are involved in the walks. Talking about the walk that just has transpired, how many families had registered for that? Probably
about 4 families. Some have registered to come all of the walk, and some are just registering for the day, as I talked to about the family with the 2 babies.
And do you plan to get together and have a debrief and talk about the fun? And I guess they'd be taking photos as well.
Yes, on the Great Ocean Walk we had a woman who was a photographer, and she had a $10,000 camera, so she took amazing photographs. So we will have something like that. Each evening we're going to be sharing the food facilities and talking, that sort of thing. And later in the year we have a conference, so hopefully some of those people will come to the conference as well. And we also will put the material on the Right to Life News, which is our online and also hard copy newsletter every 3 months.
Well, that gives our viewers something to look forward to. You're watching Support Life, and we'll be back after the break. Welcome back to Support Life. I'm Gavin Baulch, and our guest is Mary Collier. Mary, we touched on families before and a number of past walks, which kind of brings us up to the future. So have you got any ideas running around in your head about next walks?
Well, I have 3. I'd like to complete the Great Ocean Walk, because I believe that would bring back the people who have done the first half, and that would also bring a lot of people who heard how good it was. So that's number 1. Number 2 would be that I've had contact with the New South Wales Right to Life, and we would like to do a joint walk together, which we do in Sydney. And out of Sydney, we'd probably go up the coast somehow. And then the third one would be a 3-day kayaking adventure. One of our supporters' son has helped me with the walk, and he runs a kayaking operation, and I thought it would be good to support him for volunteering to help us, and it would be something different as well.
Well, from someone who's physical and active like yourself, cycling, and we said that no, you didn't do extreme sports. Looks like something is coming up that might come close to that. Kayaking.
Yes, well, not everyone on the committee likes the idea because they're a little bit worried, but I said with all of the walks you have risk management, so there will be ways of, anything can happen to people on kayak trips now, so they have to have plans for evacuation or getting extra drinks or those sorts of things. Yeah.
I run a small not-for-profit, and my risk assessment is a 26-page. So, yes, we really do have to look and take care and make sure that safety is a top priority. Now, I'd like to change gears a little bit, and we're going to talk about fashion and design and the jacket that you're wearing. There's a story behind that. Would you like to fill me in a little bit?
Yes, there is. It's very close to my heart, this jacket. About 2 years ago, one of a young Thai student was in Melbourne, and she'd be international student, and she had only started her course, and she became pregnant to her boyfriend at the time, and she was very concerned because her family had sent a lot of money for her to study, and she felt ashamed she'd let them down. Besides that, well, all other reasons, she didn't have support here to help her, so she ended up at the late term abortion clinic in Melbourne at about 20 weeks pregnant. So we're talking about 5.5 months pregnant. So she was quite formed, as in like you could see she was pregnant. And one of our counsellors was there, and her partner had actually dropped her off, and he actually came to the clinic. And he said, later he said to me, she kept changing her mind, yes, no, yes, no. And he said, just make up your mind. So they got there at 6:30 in the morning. And what happened, the clinic had said, turn up with $2,945. They didn't need a referral, nothing at all. She'd been to 2 other clinics in Melbourne and received no counselling, just told that she was too far pregnant and that she has to go to Croydon, which is the Dr. Mary Stopes clinic, where women have been infected with hepatitis. Anyway, one of our counsellors was there and showed her partner, or boyfriend, the size of the baby in the womb. And he said to her, which is the most amazing sort of story of life, he said, come on, let's take our baby boy home, let's not leave him here. And it was very emotional. And so then I was called, and I was at the Right to Life office, and I remember that day thinking, what can I do? And they asked me to get an obstetrician. So I knew, because I'd worked at health services in Melbourne for years, I knew how to get one straight away. I did know, I just didn't realise my connections. So I went to every appointment, and I spent the last 1.5 years every Sunday visiting them and helping with the baby. And in fact, they like to call me grandmother, and I said, no, I want to be auntie. And she says to me that every time she thinks of that place, she gets very emotional, and how much, we've helped her. And her partner, he didn't have a job, he was a student. He bought me this coat to say thank you from the family. And every time I wear this, I have lovely thoughts, and I can tell people the story. It's very precious. Yeah. It's
a very important story for us to hear. And it shows that how close, really, as human beings, we can be to one another. Yes, we can be very independent, we can be codependent, or we can be interdependent. And your expression of love and grace and their response to your kindness to them, just being there, and then the support that followed up, it's one of those life-affirming stories that we all need to hear, and we need to hear them again and again and again, because this is what makes a multicultural society work. We're supporting life, we're supporting families, and we're working at it together.
Yeah.
Now, how many days a week do you spend Right to Life?
Well, I spend 5 days a week.
It's a full time.
Right to Life, yes. And usually all the other things at home just fall apart. But I really enjoy my work. It's definitely a movement. And the interesting part of it is that there is a struggle. So it's not just a simple job. It's very challenging, and we need more people. We need more volunteers, and we need more people out there writing letters to the editor, giving their stories, and showing that there's an alternative to women.
Yes.
For women.
So has anyone written down this lovely Thai story?
I've written a little bit of it, but I think she tells the story very well. She now speaks English well, and I've written it down, but I'd like to give it to the right source. I don't want to just give it to anyone to use. I think it's very important. I did use it, I did send it down for the latest Tasmanian abortion bill that was being debated, and it was tabled. Yeah.
Well, Mary, I'm really pleased that story was shared, and it's possible that if we could arrange it, maybe she'd like to come on and just share it herself personally.
She would. She's very vivacious, and she would love to help any other student in crisis and tell them that it's possible. Everything's possible.
Mary, thanks for sharing your time with me today. You're watching Support Life, and that's all for our conversation with Mary. But stay tuned, because after the break, we'll be back with one of the Street Talk interviews we recorded last December with members of the public in the Bourke St Mall in Melbourne.
Thanks for coming on, Athol. Support Life program, Channel 31. Got a couple of questions to ask you. Do you consider you value human life, and why?
Yeah, absolutely. I value human life. Why? I mean, I've got a young family, so I've got 3 children, and I think when you become a parent, you certainly understand what human life's about, being at their birth. And also, you would never ever want anything to happen to your children, and I think it certainly gives you more of an appreciation for life. But I've always valued human life.
Fantastic. What do you know about the current abortion laws in this state, Victoria?
I don't know anything about current laws in Victoria. I assume they'd be similar as they are in Tasmania. I'm guessing it's illegal to have an abortion, or maybe it is legal. I don't know. Hey, the laws are there. They're there for a reason. As far as abortion goes, I guess I don't really. I think it's a difficult situation people are in. I don't think they choose to go through that situation, but it's an option for them, and I'd hate to take that option away from somebody in maybe a desperate situation, for whatever that reason may be.
Have you known anybody affected by abortion?
Yeah. I'm not sure if she knows that I know, but I do know that she had to have an abortion. I know it wasn't an easy decision for her to make. I haven't spoken about it because I don't think she knows that I know about it. But yeah, look, I can't imagine that would have been an easy decision for her or her partner at the time. Sure, absolutely. If you heard a pregnant woman died, for example, in a car accident, yep,
and obviously she's pregnant, carrying a child, would you consider that one death or 2 deaths?
It's a hard question, because I guess it relies on your definition of when does a pregnant woman's baby become a human life, at what stage? Is it at week 1, or is it week 12 when you go for your first scan, or is it week 20 when you find out the sex of your child? I think for me, I think it would depend how far along in her pregnancy she had gone through. I think probably after 12 weeks, yeah, maybe that would be the death of 2 people, not just one.
So this is interesting, because the next question is, when do you think human life begins, and why?
I said we've got 3 children. We were unlucky between our first and second child. My wife had a miscarriage, and the baby had stopped growing at 7 weeks. I think the obstetrician told us. We went in for the 12-week scan, and it was clear that the baby had stopped growing by about that time. Look, I don't know. It's hard to know, and being a guy as well, we don't carry the baby, so it's very different for us again. I know it impacted on my wife tremendously, and she was very upset. But I guess if I was to look at it in a rational, realistic way, I guess it's nature's way of saying that pregnancy wasn't meant to be.
Yeah.
So 12 weeks would probably be my answer, I guess. Yeah.
That's okay.
When you can tell everybody that you're going to have a baby.
Okay. Would it be safe to say a baby is considered a human, and if we said a developing child 3 to 6 months in the womb, so then what point would you consider that a human?
It's so tough. It's like, it's in a very grey and difficult area to answer. Look, I don't know. Look, my someone close to me recently had a miscarriage as well, and he was present when they had the I think it's called a D&C, and he saw the little baby, and I said, how did you feel? And he said, well, you could see it was a baby. It was not just a little speck or anything. He goes, you could see that was of human form.
How many weeks was that?
That was really early. I reckon that was around somewhere between 7 and 12 weeks, before the 12-week scan anyway. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Under what circumstances would you consider it justifiable to terminate a child?
I would never force my opinion onto somebody else. I think that's a hard decision that person would have to make themselves. I honestly believe people are good by nature. They don't choose to go and terminate a life, and I think that that's a hard decision. I couldn't answer that question because I wouldn't have to do that myself.
Yeah, okay. So from your personal point of view, you're saying that that's something you wouldn't do?
No, I'm not saying I wouldn't do.
Okay.
My wife and I talked about, when you go through your pregnancy, you get a lot of reports back talking about the health of the child, or the expected health. Now, it's only a best guess, obviously, but you test for Down syndrome and all other sorts of, birth defects. And we discussed that as a couple, and we decided that if our report wasn't favourable, that we would seriously consider terminating the pregnancy.
And do you think people are influenced by political and social pressures to abort a child?
I think people are influenced in everything they do by political and social pressures, right from an early age, from your parents through to your work, all your life. You'll always be influenced by political and social pressures. That's who we are, we're social people. Yeah.
Did you know in Victoria it's legal to abort a child right up until birth?
No, I didn't know that. That would be very horrible for the mother and father, I'm sure. Yeah.
In Australia, there's 100,000 unborn children who are aborted yearly. What do you think of this?
I'm surprised. I didn't realise the number was that high.
And if another sector of our human race was so mistreated as the unborn, would you be motivated to stand up and say something for people's rights, especially the unborn?
Again, I don't think people choose to abort children. I don't think that's just something they just, I'm not going to have this child, I'm just going to go have an abortion because it's an easy way out. I don't think people think like that. Maybe 1 in 100,000 do, but they've got bigger problems than just that, obviously. Mate, I'm a big believer in letting the mother and the father decide what should happen, rightfully or wrongly, whether you have a religious opinion or anything on that. I think that we're regulated enough by society, and I think that's a personal decision that we own, and it's our decision to make.
Fair enough, all right. Athol, thank you so much for coming on, really appreciate it.